Bethany left the pregnancy test on our bathroom counter the morning after leading a women's Bible study on sexual purity. She was crying, not because she was sorry, because she said it was God's plan. I'm Nathan Andrews. I've been the worship pastor at Grace Fellowship Church in Franklin, Tennessee for 8 years. We're not a small church. 6,500 members, 6 services every weekend, radio broadcast that reaches 50,000 people across Middle Tennessee. When I stand on that stage Sunday mornings and lead worship, I'm looking at 2,500 faces at once. I know what it means to have witnesses. That Sunday morning, I'd led all 6 services. By the time I got home, my voice was raw from singing. Bethany was upstairs. I could hear her crying through the bathroom door. The test was sitting on the white marble counter, not hidden, just there. The digital display said, "Pregnant 2-3 weeks." I picked it up. The plastic rattled, battery inside. The faint electronic hum was still going. I knocked. "Beth?" She opened the door. Her mascara had run. She'd been crying for a while. "I'm pregnant," she said. I tried to do the math in my head. We hadn't been intimate in 6 weeks, maybe longer. Our marriage had been cold for months. She'd been busy with her women's ministry. I'd been busy with worship programming. We'd been living like roommates who shared a daughter. "How far along?" I asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3. She wouldn't look at me. "Bethany." My voice came out flat. "We haven't..." "I know." She was sobbing now. "Nathan, I need to tell you something." She sat on the edge of our bed. I stayed standing. "There was someone else," she said. I didn't plan it. It just happened during the strategy meetings for Mom's marriage ministry expansion." Strategy meetings. Eleanor Sterling ran the marriage ministry at Grace Fellowship. She'd built a program that counseled 200 couples a year. She taught classes on biblical submission. She was Bethany's mother, and she was the most calculating woman I'd ever known. "Who?" I asked. Bethany looked up. Her eyes were red. "Jonathan." The name hit me like cold water. "Jonathan Ward?" She nodded. "Jonathan David Ward, age 32, assistant pastor for young adults, son of Pastor Thomas Ward, our senior pastor. Jonathan had been at Grace Fellowship his whole life, legacy hire, never earned his position. He preached sermons about sexual purity and led purity pledge ceremonies for teenagers. He drove a BMW with a license plate that said Bless 3. "How long?" My voice sounded far away. 8 months. She was crying harder. "It started last fall. Mom arranged these ministry planning sessions. Jonathan was there. We'd meet at hotels to discuss strategy away from the church. And then it happened. 8 months, while I was leading worship, while I was teaching our 9-year-old daughter Lily about honesty and integrity, while I was standing on that stage every Sunday singing about faithfulness. And you're telling me this now because you're pregnant. Nathan, you don't understand. Mom said..." She stopped. "Your mother said what?" "She said it's what God wanted." Those words, in that order, I couldn't make sense of them. God wanted you to sleep with Jonathan Ward? She said you and I were not the right match, that I needed someone from a stronger background, someone with better... She trailed off. "Better what, Bethany?" She didn't answer, just kept crying. I walked out of the bedroom, down the stairs, out to the church parking lot where I'd left my car after the last service. It was empty now, just rows of white lines on black asphalt. Grace Fellowship's main campus sits on 40 acres in Franklin. We have a sanctuary, an education building, a gym, offices, a coffee shop. It looks more like a corporate headquarters than a church. My car was parked near the education wing. I sat in the driver's seat with the doors locked, and I didn't know what to do. That's when I noticed Bethany's car was still there too. She'd driven separately this morning because she was meeting someone for lunch. I looked over. Her white Lexus SUV was 3 spots away. I got out, walked over, tried the door. Unlocked. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I opened the passenger door and looked inside. There was a leather-bound Bible on the passenger seat, ESV Study Bible, red leather, 9 by 12 inches. I recognized it immediately because it was mine. I'd given it to Bethany for our first anniversary. My name was embossed on the cover, Nathan Paul Andrews. But when I picked it up, something was wrong. The pages fell open to Proverbs, and there was handwriting in the margins. Not Bethany's handwriting, someone else's, blue ink, block letters. July 15th, Jefferson Hotel, room 847. She understands now what God requires. I turned more pages. The handwriting appeared again and again, always next to passages about submission, about God's plan, about following authority. August 22nd, told her about the bigger picture. She's ready. September 10th, her mother is helping her see the truth about bloodlines. The brass clasp on the Bible made a sharp metallic click when I closed it. My hands were shaking. I put it back on the seat exactly where I'd found it. I drove home with the windows down even though it was July in Tennessee and the heat was suffocating. I needed the noise, the wind, something to drown out the sound of my own thoughts. Lily was at summer camp. She wouldn't be home until tomorrow. That was good. I needed to think. I needed to understand what was happening before I had to look my daughter in the eye and pretend everything was normal. When I got home, Bethany had locked herself in the bedroom. I went to my study, closed the door, sat in the dark. My phone buzzed. A text from Cheryl Martinez. She's the church secretary, 42 years old, single mom. She'd worked at Grace Fellowship for 15 years. The text said, "Nathan, can we talk? Not at church. It's important." I called her. "What's going on?" "Not on the phone," she said. "Can you meet me at the coffee shop on Main Street, the one that's not affiliated with the church?" 20 minutes later, I was sitting across from Cheryl at a table in the corner. She'd brought a box with her, cardboard about the size of a shoebox. "I don't know how to say this," she said, "so I'm just going to show you." She opened the box. Inside were church directories, the spiral-bound kind we print every year with family photos and contact information, white cover with the Grace Fellowship logo, a blue cross. "I've been here 15 years, Cheryl said. "I update the directory every year. I know every family who's ever been part of this church." She pulled out the oldest directory from 2010. She opened to a page and pointed. The Rodriguez family. Mixed-race couple. He was Hispanic. She was white. 2 kids. They were here for 2 years. She flipped pages. Eleanor Sterling counseled them through her marriage ministry. By 2012, they were gone. She pulled out another directory, 2013. The Washington family, black husband, white wife, active in children's ministry. She opened the directory. Their family photo showed a beautiful couple with 3 kids. Eleanor counseled them too. They were gone by 2014. She kept pulling out directories. The pages made that distinctive glossy paper sound. Flip, flip, flip. The spiral binding rattled. The Chen family, 2015, gone by 2016. The Patterson family, 2017, gone by 2018. The Kumar family, 2019, gone by 2020. She spread all the directories out on the table between us. 8 families total, all mixed-race marriages, all gone within a year of Eleanor Sterling's marriage ministry counseling. "I started noticing the pattern 2 years ago," Cheryl said. Her voice was quiet. Every time a mixed-race couple joined the church, Eleanor would volunteer to counsel them. She'd use the same language every time. Spiritual concerns. Biblical alignment. And then they'd be gone. I picked up one of the directories. The paper felt cold. My hands were steady now. That's the strange thing about shock. First you shake, then you go completely still. 8 families, I said. 8 families in 15 years, all mixed race, all driven out after Eleanor's counseling. Cheryl looked at me. "Nathan, your grandmother was Mexican, wasn't she?" "Yeah, my dad's mother. She immigrated from Oaxaca in the 50s. "Has Eleanor ever said anything about that?" I thought back. family dinners, holiday gatherings, 8 years of marriage into the Sterling family. Little comments, I said. Lily's interesting features. Questions about genetics. She'd say things like, "It's fascinating how traits pass down. I thought she was just being awkward." She wasn't being awkward. Cheryl closed the directories. The soft thud echoed. She was cataloging. I sat there for a long time. The coffee shop had maybe 10 other people. No one from church, no one who knew us. It felt like the only safe place in Franklin. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked. "Because Bethany came to my office yesterday," Cheryl said. "She needed me to book a hotel room for a ministry planning meeting next month." She was crying, and she asked me if I thought God could forgive necessary sins. Necessary sins. "I've watched you for 8 years, Nathan. You're a good man. You actually care about the music, about the worship. You're not in this for the image, and I think..." She paused. "I think you need to know what you're up against." I drove home with those directories in my passenger seat. 8 families, 15 years, all gone. If you've ever felt like you didn't belong somewhere you were supposed to be safe, at a church, in a family, in a place that claimed to love you, just type, "I understand" in the comments. You're not alone in that pain. I needed to talk to Eleanor face to face. No more secondhand information. No more wondering if I was misunderstanding. Monday morning, I drove to the church. Eleanor's office was in the Family Life Center. She ran the marriage ministry from there. The door had a nameplate. Eleanor Sterling, Director of Marriage Ministry. I knocked. She called out, "Come in." Eleanor Sterling was 64 years old, former prosecutor. She'd retired early to focus on ministry work. She taught Bible studies on submission and biblical womanhood. She wore pearls even when she was just at the church office. Her hair was perfect. Her voice was always measured. She looked up when I walked in. "Nathan, what a surprise." I closed the door behind me. "We need to talk about Bethany," I said. "Of course." She gestured to a chair. I stayed standing. "I assume she told you about the baby." "She told me about Jonathan." Eleanor's expression didn't change, not even a flicker. She just nodded, slowly, like I'd mentioned the weather. "I see," she said. "And how are you feeling about that?" How was I feeling? Like my marriage had been a business arrangement. Like I'd spent 8 years proving myself to a family that saw me as temporary. "How long have you known?" I asked. "From the beginning." She said it calmly, matter of fact. She was organizing Bible study materials on her desk while we talked. Pink folders, handouts about covenant marriage. "You knew, and you didn't tell me." "Nathan, you're a sweet man. You really are. But you and Bethany, you were never going to work long term." "We've been married for 8 years." "Yes, and it's been a good 8 years. You gave us credibility." The worship pastor from a working class background who married into the Sterling family. It was good optics. She smiled. "But Bethany deserves more." The way she said it, so calm, so reasonable. "More than what?" I asked. She leaned back in her chair. "Nathan, your grandmother was Mexican. Do you know what that means?" "It means she was born in Mexico, and then she became a U.S. citizen." "It means your bloodline is mixed," Eleanor said. "Diluted, and I know that sounds harsh, but in God's economy, these things matter." God's economy? She was talking about genetics like it was a financial portfolio. "Jonathan's family traces back to Plymouth Rock," she continued. "Anglo-Saxon Christians who built this nation. His bloodline is pure, unbroken. That's the kind of heritage Lily deserves in her siblings." I felt my jaw tighten. "Lily is my daughter." "Of course she is. And we love Lily. But she has brown eyes, Nathan, dark hair. Her features are, well, they're interesting. And for her future children, for the family line, we need to course correct." Course correct, like I was a mistake that needed fixing. "Bethany needed someone from the right background," Eleanor said. "Someone who could give her children the genetic advantages they deserve. Jonathan is that someone. His family has the connections, the pedigree, the proper Christian heritage. This is racism, I said. No. She shook her head. This is biblical wisdom. God sees the heart, Nathan, and he knows that bloodlines matter for his kingdom. I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm saying you served your purpose. But now it's time for the next phase. She said it like she was planning a church potluck. You arranged this, I said. You arranged the affair. I facilitated what God intended. The ministry meetings, the hotel rooms, the opportunities for Bethany and Jonathan to see what could be. Yes, I facilitated. She smiled. And it worked. Bethany understands now. She sees the bigger picture. And what about me? You'll do what's best for Lily. You'll accept a generous divorce settlement. You'll find another church where you can do good work. And someday you'll understand that this was all part of God's plan. I turned to leave. My hand was on the doorknob. Nathan, Eleanor called out, don't do anything foolish. Pastor Thomas and I have already discussed this. We're prepared to support Bethany and Jonathan, and we're prepared to handle any complications. If you fight this, we'll make it very difficult for you. Custody, finances, your reputation in this community. She picked up her gold cross pen, the one engraved with her initials. Think about Lily. Think about what's best for her. I walked out. The hallway was empty. It was Monday morning. Most staff didn't come in until noon on Mondays. I went to the sanctuary. It was dark, no lights, just the dim glow from the exit signs. I sat in the front pew, the one where I always sat before services to pray. I'd spent 8 years on that stage, leading worship, singing about faithfulness and grace and truth, and the whole time I'd been part of a show, a performance. Good optics, she'd said. My phone buzzed. A reminder, staff meeting at 2 o'clock. I almost didn't go, but I went. The executive team met in the conference room. 12 people. Pastor Thomas Ward at the head of the table. Jonathan was there. He didn't look at me. Pastor Thomas called the meeting to order. Let's open in prayer. Jonathan, would you lead us? Jonathan stood up. He always stood when he prayed. He closed his eyes, folded his hands. Father God, we thank you for this ministry you've entrusted to us. We ask that you help us maintain sexual purity in all aspects of our leadership. Guide us away from temptation. Help us to be men and women of integrity. I stood up. My chair scraped against the floor. The sound cut through the prayer like a knife. Everyone looked at me. I'm sorry, I said. I can't do this. I walked out. The conference room door closed behind me with a soft click. Lily was sitting in the hallway. She was supposed to be at Children's Ministry Summer Camp, but they'd gotten out early. She had her backpack. She was doing her homework on the floor. She looked up when I walked out. Daddy, why did you leave? Uncle Jonathan was still praying. I knelt down beside her, looked at her brown eyes, her dark hair, her beautiful features that Eleanor called interesting. Sometimes, baby girl, staying is the wrong choice. She tilted her head. But you always say we should never leave church early. I know what I said. I picked up her backpack. Come on, let's go home. That night, I got a text from Katie Reynolds. She was 28, youth worship leader. She'd been on my team for 3 years, quiet, observant, the kind of person who noticed things. The text said, I have something you need to hear. Can we meet tomorrow? Not at church. We met at a coffee shop on the other side of Nashville, 30 minutes from Franklin, far enough that we wouldn't run into anyone from Grace Fellowship. Katie looked nervous. She had a small black object on the table, palm-sized, a digital audio recorder. I should have come to you months ago, she said, but I was scared, and I didn't know if you'd believe me. Believe what? She pushed the recorder toward me. 3 weeks ago, I stayed late to practice for youth worship night. I was in the hallway near Eleanor's office. The door was open a crack. I heard voices, Eleanor and Carol Ward. Carol Ward. Jonathan's mother, Pastor Thomas's wife. I knew I shouldn't listen, but something about their tone. Katie swallowed. I recorded it. I know that's wrong, but I recorded it. She pressed play. There was a high-pitched beep, then mechanical whirring. The speaker was tinny, but the voices were clear. Eleanor's voice. Jonathan's bloodline will correct Nathan's impurity. Bethany understands now. We'll raise this baby in the truth about heritage. Carol Ward's voice. And if Nathan resists? A pause. Then Eleanor laughed. That cold, calculated laugh. We'll say he was abusive, emotionally unstable. We'll take Lily. Either way, the bloodline improves. The recording kept going. Carol, Thomas is worried about the optics. Nathan's popular with the worship team. Eleanor, Thomas will do what's necessary. We've invested too much in this merger to let sentiment get in the way. The Blackwell donation alone. Carol, $500,000 for the new worship center. Eleanor, exactly, and they're Jonathan's godparents. They understand what we're building here, a legacy, pure Christian families with the right heritage. No more dilution. The recording ended. The silence felt heavy. There's more, Katie said, but that's the worst of it. I sat there. The coffee shop was loud, people talking, espresso machine hissing, but all I could hear was Eleanor's voice. We'll take Lily. Why are you giving this to me? I asked. Katie's eyes were red. Because I've watched you lead worship for 3 years, and I've never seen anyone who actually meant it the way you do. You're not performing, you're actually worshiping, and they're going to destroy you for it. She pushed the recorder across the table. This is the only copy. I didn't back it up. I don't want any connection to it, but you need to have it. I picked up the recorder. The plastic was light. It felt like nothing, but it was everything. Thank you, I said. I'm sorry, she said. I'm sorry I waited so long. The next morning, I got a call from Pastor Thomas's assistant. He wanted to see me. Today, 10 a.m., his office. I knew what was coming, but I went anyway. Pastor Thomas Ward was 58, tall, charismatic. He'd been senior pastor at Grace Fellowship for 22 years. He'd grown the church from 300 members to 6,500. He'd built the broadcast ministry, the satellite campuses. He was good at growth, good at fundraising, good at image management. His office was on the second floor of the administration building, leather furniture, mahogany desk, diplomas on the wall, Master of Divinity from Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary, Doctor of Ministry from Fuller. He stood up when I walked in, shook my hand. Nathan, thanks for coming. Please, sit. I sat. He walked to the window, looked out at the campus. Beautiful day, he said. God has blessed this ministry beyond what I ever imagined. He turned back to me. I've talked to Eleanor and to Bethany. I understand there's been some difficulty. Difficulty, that was one word for it. Jonathan made a mistake, Pastor Thomas continued. He's young. He got caught up in something he shouldn't have. But we serve a God of grace, Nathan, a God of second chances. He slept with my wife for 8 months. I know, and that's sin. I'm not excusing it. He sat down across from me. But consider the bigger picture. We have 6,500 souls depending on this church. We have a broadcast ministry. We have 3 satellite campuses in development. This church is doing God's work. So we cover it up. We handle it internally for the sake of the kingdom. He leaned forward. Nathan, you're valuable to this ministry. You've done excellent work with the worship program, and we want to keep you. He opened his desk drawer, pulled out a folder. Executive worship pastor, he said. New position, $95,000 a year, benefits, new church-owned house in Brentwood, 3 bedrooms, better school district for Lily. He slid the folder across the desk. I could see the job description, the salary line. Jonathan will take a sabbatical, Pastor Thomas said. We'll send him to our California campus for a year. Bethany will do counseling. The pregnancy, well, we'll figure that out quietly. and you'll have the promotion you deserve. And all I have to do is stay quiet. All you have to do is think about what's best for Lily, for the ministry, for the 6,500 people who come here every Sunday looking for hope." He smiled. "Think about the 2,000 veterans your nonprofit serves, Nathan. A lot of that funding comes through relationships I've cultivated. One call, and that funding gets much more difficult to maintain." He was threatening me, politely, with a smile. "Think of the greater good," he said. "Your pride or their salvation. Choose." I stood up, left the folder on his desk. "I choose Lily," I said. That night I was walking to my car in the church parking garage. It was late, past 9. I'd been cleaning out my worship office, packing things. I knew I wouldn't be there much longer. Jonathan's BMW was parked on the 3rd level, black, shiny, the license plate, blessed 3. He was leaning against it, waiting. "Nathan," he said, "we should talk." I kept walking. He stepped in front of me. "I know you're angry," he said, "but you need to understand. God told me to do this." I stopped. "God told you to sleep with my wife?" "God told me to redeem your bloodline." He said it calmly, like it was obvious. "Bethany deserves children from proper Christian heritage. Lily deserves siblings who can carry the family legacy forward. Your grandmother being Mexican, that complicates things." "Complicates things?" "Yeah, I mean, I know you can't help your genetics, but the Sterling family has standards. My family has standards. This is about building something bigger than one marriage." He smiled, like he expected me to agree. "You should be thanking me, actually. Lily will have proper siblings now, better connections, better opportunities. My family can open doors for her that you never could." I stepped closer. He backed up against the BMW. "You think your bloodline makes you better than me?" My voice was quiet. "I think my family understands what it means to build Christian legacy. We're not diversity hires, Nathan. We earned our place." He straightened his tie. "You were always temporary, a placeholder until Bethany was ready for the real thing." He walked around to the driver's side door, got in. The engine purred to life. "Oh," he called out the window. "And just so you know, Pastor Thomas and Eleanor already have the custody strategy mapped out. If you fight this, you'll lose Lily. They have lawyers, money, influence. You have a nonprofit salary and a savior complex." He drove away. The BMW's taillights disappeared down the ramp. I stood there for a long time. The parking garage was empty, concrete and fluorescent lights. I could hear my own breathing echoing. When I got home, Bethany was in the kitchen. She'd been crying. Her eyes were red and swollen. "Can we talk?" she asked. "I don't know what we have to talk about." "Please, Nathan, just let me explain." We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd had breakfast as a family 1,000 times, where Lily did her homework, where we'd pretended to be happy. Bethany opened a small jewelry box. Inside was her purity ring, the silver band she'd worn from age 16 until our wedding day. Simple. A cross engraved on the outside. Inside engraved, "Bethany, once core 13-7. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things." She placed it on the table between us. The silver made a light metallic clink against the wood. "I stopped wearing this the night I first slept with Jonathan," she said. "I knew what I was doing. I knew it was wrong, but Mom said..." Her voice broke. "She said you weren't enough, that I needed someone from a better background, someone who could give our children the legacy they deserved." Better background. Anglo-Saxon, pure Christian heritage. She's been saying it for years. Little comments, questions about genetics. She'd show me pictures of Jonathan's family, all the way back to the Mayflower. She'd say things like, "Imagine what your children could be with that bloodline." Bethany was crying now, really crying. I believed her. I thought I was doing the right thing. For Lily, for our future children. I thought I was serving God. By sleeping with another man. By improving the family line. She looked up. That's how she framed it. God wants strong Christian families, pure bloodlines, no dilution. And I believed her because I've never done anything without her approval. Never made a choice she didn't validate first. She picked up the ring. It felt smooth and cold. I destroyed our marriage for racism wrapped in Bible verses, she said. And I didn't even see it until you walked out of that staff meeting, until Lily asked why you left. And I realized, she stopped. I realized I'd been poisoning our daughter, just like Mom poisoned me. The baby, I said, wasn't planned. Jonathan and I were careful, but it happened. And now Mom's timeline is ruined. She wanted me to divorce you after the church conference in August, marry Jonathan in the spring, make it look natural, but I'm pregnant now, and it's going to show, and she's furious. Good. Bethany looked at me, really looked at me. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just need you to know. You were always good enough. I just couldn't see it through her shadow. She put the ring back in the box, slid it across the table to me. Keep it, she said. I don't deserve to wear it again. Here's what I couldn't answer. If someone was manipulated into betraying you, but they still made the choice, do you forgive them? If you could forgive Bethany, type forgive. If you'd walk away and never look back, type leave. What would you do? I didn't know either. That's why I called my brother. Marcus Andrews is 45, 7 years older than me. He left the church when he was 20, never looked back. He's an atheist, works in tech, lives in Austin. We talk maybe twice a year, but he picked up on the first ring. Nathan, you okay? No. What happened? I told him everything. The pregnancy, the affair, Eleanor's bloodline theology, the 8 families, the audio recording, Pastor Thomas's bribe. Marcus was quiet for a long time. You think God will protect you? He finally said. I think truth matters. Truth doesn't matter in courtrooms, little brother. Lawyers do, and they have better lawyers. He paused. This is exactly why I left. The church doesn't care about truth. It cares about protecting itself. The institution always wins. Always. What should I do? You should take the money, take the promotion, raise Lily in that nice house in Brentwood, swallow your pride and move on. I can't do that. Why not? Because Lily's watching, and she needs to see that integrity costs something. That truth is worth fighting for. Marcus laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. God doesn't show up in courtrooms, Nathan. He doesn't prevent custody battles. He doesn't override judges who play golf with Pastor Thomas. You're going into a war with a purity ring and a worship guitar. They have money, influence, generational wealth. You're going to lose. Maybe, I said, but at least Lily will know I tried. You're an idiot. Yeah, probably. After we hung up, I sat in my study for a long time. It was past midnight. Bethany had gone to bed. Lily was still at her friend's house for a sleepover. I was alone. That's when I saw it, on my desk. Lily's purple spiral notebook, her prayer journal. She kept it for her devotional time. She was supposed to write one prayer every night before bed. I shouldn't have read it, but I did. The notebook had Jesus stickers on the cover. Some were peeling at the edges. When I opened it, the spiral binding made that scratching sound against the cardboard. The pages were wrinkled. Water damage, not water, tears. My daughter had cried while writing these prayers. The ink had run in places. I flipped to the most recent entry, 3 days ago. The handwriting was childlike. Some letters were backwards, but the words were clear. Dear God, Grandma Eleanor says Daddy's family isn't pure. She says that's why I have brown eyes and not blue like her. She says it's why my hair is dark. She asked me if I wish I looked more like Mommy. Does that mean you love me less? I try to be a good Christian. I memorize my verses. I pray every night. I help at church. But maybe I'm made wrong. Grandma says genetics are important for Christian families. She says some bloodlines are better than others. She showed me pictures of Uncle Jonathan's family. They all have blonde hair and blue eyes. She says that's what God's people are supposed to look like. I don't look like that. Please make me pure so Daddy doesn't have to be sad. I'll pray harder. I'll be better. I promise. Love, Lily. My hands were shaking so hard the pages rattled. The notebook slipped, fell to the floor. I picked it up. My daughter, my beautiful, perfect daughter, was asking God to make her white. That was the moment I knew I'd burn it all down. The church, the ministry, the image, all of it. Because some things are worth destroying to protect what matters. I called Dr. Lisa Chen the next morning. She was 51, licensed therapist. She'd been doing counseling at Grace Fellowship for 10 years, but she wasn't like the others. She actually cared about healing, not image management. We met at her private practice, not at the church. I brought the prayer journal. She read it. And when she finished, she set it down carefully, like it was something fragile that might break. How long has Eleanor been saying these things to Lily? She asked. I don't know, months, years, I never heard it directly. Just little comments I thought were awkward. They weren't awkward, they were grooming. Dr. Lisa looked at me. Nathan, Eleanor has been systematically teaching your daughter to hate herself. That's psychological abuse. I know. And you're thinking about fighting back. I don't see another option. She was quiet for a moment. If you go public, you'll lose everything. Your job, your housing, probably your ability to work in ministry anywhere in Tennessee. Pastor Thomas has connections everywhere. I know. And custody will be brutal. They'll paint you as vindictive, unstable. They'll say you're destroying the church out of spite. I know. So why do it? I picked up the prayer journal, the purple cover with Jesus stickers. Because if I don't, I'm teaching Lily that power matters more than truth, that we protect institutions instead of people, that racism is acceptable if you wrap it in Bible verses. I looked at Dr. Lisa. I can't do that. I won't. She nodded slowly. Then you need to be strategic, and you need to be prepared for war. I have the audio recording. That helps, but you need more. Documentation, witnesses, a lawyer who's willing to fight, and you need to move fast before they move first. I'm leading worship this Sunday. Dr. Lisa's eyes widened. Nathan, 2,500 people in the sanctuary, 50,000 on the radio broadcast. That's the biggest audience I'll ever have. I stood up. If I'm going down telling the truth. She stood too, put her hand on my shoulder. God sees the heart, Nathan, and your heart is protecting your daughter from poison disguised as scripture. That's not rebellion, that's love. The motif, but transformed, reclaimed. What are you going to do? She asked. I picked up my phone. I'm going to change Sunday's worship set list. Saturday night, I stayed up late in my study. I had the worship set list in front of me, white paper, my handwriting, songs I'd planned weeks ago, coffee stained from Sunday morning prep sessions. I crossed them all out, wrote new songs, truth themed, great is thy faithfulness, in Christ alone, build my life, and then one more at the end, it is well with my soul. The paper crinkled when I folded it, put it in my pocket. Sunday morning, I got to the church at 6 a.m. Services started at 8. I had 2 hours. I went to the sound booth, talked to the tech director, a guy named Aaron who'd been running sound for 5 years. I need you to do something for me, I said, and I need you to trust me. I showed him the audio recorder. During the service, I'm going to make an announcement, and I'm going to play this recording. I need you to put it through the sanctuary speakers and through the broadcast feed. Aaron's face went pale. Nathan, what's on that recording? The truth. Pastor Thomas will fire me. Probably, but 50,000 people will hear it, and that matters more than our jobs. He looked at the recorder, then at me. You're really doing this. I'm really doing this. Okay. He took the recorder. I'll need a few minutes to set it up. Give me a signal when you're ready. The first service started at 8. I led worship like I always did. 2,500 people in the sanctuary. The band behind me, lights, cameras, broadcast going out live. We sang, "Great is thy faithfulness." The congregation stood, sang along. Their voices filled the space. I looked out at them. These were my people. I'd led them in worship for 8 years. I'd sung at their weddings, their funerals, their baptisms, and I was about to shatter everything they believed about their church. Pastor Thomas sat on the platform, front row. Eleanor was in the third row. Bethany was in the back. She looked terrified. We finished the song. The band kept playing softly, instrumental. I stepped to the microphone. "Before we continue," I said, "I need to tell you something." The band stopped. The sanctuary went quiet. 2,500 people waiting. "Some of you know me. I've been your worship pastor for 8 years. I love this church. I love this community. And that's why I have to tell you the truth." Pastor Thomas stood up. "Nathan, this isn't..." "Sit down, Thomas." He froze. I'd never called him Thomas. Always Pastor Thomas. Always respectful. He sat down. 3 weeks ago, I continued, I discovered that my wife had been having an affair with Jonathan Ward, the assistant pastor, for 8 months. Murmurs went through the congregation. People shifted, whispered. I was devastated. But then I learned something worse. The affair wasn't a mistake. It was arranged by my mother-in-law, Eleanor Sterling, and by Carol Ward, Jonathan's mother. Eleanor stood up. "This is slander." "It's not slander if I have proof." I looked at Aaron in the sound booth, gave him the signal. "What you're about to hear," I said, "is a recording of Eleanor Sterling and Carol Ward discussing why they arranged this affair. I want you to listen carefully, because this is what's been happening at Grace Fellowship, under the surface, for years." The recording started. Eleanor's voice filled the sanctuary, crystal clear, through every speaker. "Jonathan's bloodline will correct Nathan's impurity. Bethany understands now. We'll raise this baby in the truth about heritage." Carol Ward's voice. "And if Nathan resists," Eleanor's laugh, "we'll say he was abusive, emotionally unstable. We'll take Lily. Either way, the bloodline improves." The sanctuary was dead silent. 2,500 people, frozen. The recording continued. Eleanor. "The Blackwell donation alone, $500,000 for the new worship center. They understand what we're building, a legacy. Pure Christian families with the right heritage, no more dilution." I stopped the recording. The silence was deafening. "My grandmother," I said, "was Mexican. She immigrated from Oaxaca in 1952. She became a U.S. citizen. She raised a family. She loved Jesus. And according to Eleanor Sterling, that makes me impure, diluted, not good enough to pass on my genes to the Sterling family line." I pulled out another piece of paper. "This is my daughter Lily's prayer journal. She's 9 years old, and this is what she wrote 3 days ago." My voice cracked, but I kept reading. "Dear God, Grandma Eleanor says Daddy's family isn't pure. Does that mean you love me less? Please make me pure so Daddy doesn't have to be sad." I looked up, tears in my eyes. My daughter is asking God to change her race, because the director of marriage ministry at this church has been teaching her that brown eyes and dark hair mean she's less valuable in God's kingdom. People were crying. Some were standing up, walking out. Others were staring at Eleanor, at Pastor Thomas. "I'm resigning," I said. "Effective immediately. I can't serve in a church that protects this, that calls this God's plan, that threatens to take my daughter from me if I speak the truth." I set down the microphone, started to walk off the stage. Then I stopped, turned back. Some people use God's words to hurt others. That's not what Jesus taught. If you've been hurt by this church, by this theology, by people who twisted scripture to justify their prejudice, I'm sorry, you deserved better. We all did. I walked out, through the side door, into the hallway. Lily was there. She'd been in children's church, but she'd heard everything over the speakers. They piped the service audio into every room. She looked up at me. Daddy? I knelt down. Yeah, baby girl? Was that true? What you said about Grandma? Yeah, it was true. Her eyes filled with tears. She really said those things about us? She did. But I thought... She stopped. I thought she loved us. I think she loves the idea of us, but she doesn't love who we actually are. Lily threw her arms around my neck. I don't want to change, Daddy. I like my brown eyes. I held her tight. Your brown eyes are perfect. You're perfect. Exactly the way God made you. The next week was chaos. I filed for divorce. Full evidence package, the audio recording, the Bible with Jonathan's notes, the church directories showing Eleanor's pattern, hotel receipts, text messages. I filed for primary custody of Lily. My lawyer, a woman named Sarah Jenkins, who specialized in custody cases, emphasized the psychological abuse, the racist theology, the grooming. I contacted the denomination, the Southern Baptist Convention, filed a formal ethics complaint with documentation. I contacted the Richmond Times-Dispatch, a reporter named David Mitchell who covered religious news. He'd been skeptical of megachurches for years. He wanted the story. Grace Fellowship went into damage control. Pastor Thomas issued a statement, called my actions divisive, said I was a disgruntled employee making unfounded accusations. But then the denomination launched an investigation, and the audio recording went viral. Someone recorded it on their phone during the service, posted it online. Within 48 hours, it had 2 million views. Christian Twitter exploded. Some people defended Eleanor, called me a bitter ex seeking revenge. Others were horrified, called for accountability. The Southern Baptist Convention's Credentials Committee opened an investigation. They sent representatives to Franklin, interviewed staff, reviewed documents. 3 weeks later, they issued their findings. Eleanor Sterling was removed from all ministry positions, permanently banned from serving in SBC churches. The report called her theology unbiblical, racist, and spiritually abusive. Pastor Thomas was placed on probation. The report found he'd prioritized institutional protection over biblical accountability. Jonathan resigned, under pressure. His father helped him get a position at a church in Wyoming, far away, where fewer people would recognize his name. Grace Fellowship lost 1,200 members, 20% of the congregation. They left, found other churches. Some left church entirely. The Blackwell family withdrew their $500,000 donation. They didn't want their name associated with the scandal. Bethany entered intensive therapy. She moved out of her mother's house, got her own apartment, started working through what her mother had done to her, to us, to Lily. She called me one night, 3 weeks after the service. I know I don't have the right to ask, she said, but can I see Lily, just for an hour, supervised? Whatever you think is safe. We have a custody hearing next week. Let the judge decide. Okay? She was quiet for a moment. Nathan, thank you. For what? For protecting her when I couldn't, when I wouldn't. Her voice broke. You're the parent she needed. I'm just sorry it took me this long to see it. The custody hearing was in August. Judge Margaret Holloway presiding. Bethany's lawyer tried to paint me as vindictive, as someone who destroyed a church and a family out of spite. But then Sarah Jenkins presented Lily's prayer journal. She read the entry out loud, in court, every word. Judge Holloway took off her glasses, looked at Bethany. Mrs. Harrison, your daughter was asking God to change her race because of what your mother taught her. Do you understand the severity of that? Bethany was crying. Yes, Your Honor. Do you take responsibility for allowing this abuse to occur? Yes, Your Honor. Judge Holloway looked at her notes, then at me. Mr. Andrews, I'm granting you primary physical custody. Mrs. Harrison will have supervised visitation twice a month until she completes a court-mandated therapy program. After 6 months, we'll reassess. She banged the gavel. That night, I took Lily to dinner, just the two of us. We went to her favorite restaurant, a pizza place with arcade games. While we were waiting for our food, she looked at me. Dad, can I ask you something? Anything, baby girl. Are we still a family, even if it's just you and me? I reached across the table, took her hand. We're more of a family now than we've ever been, because real families tell the truth, even when it's hard. Real families protect each other, and real families don't let anyone, not grandmothers, not churches, not anyone, tell them they're not good enough. She smiled, small, but real. Okay. And Lily, you know that thing Grandma said about you not being pure? Yeah? I pulled out her prayer journal. I'd been carrying it with me as a reminder. I want you to know something. God sees the heart. He sees your heart. He sees that you're kind, that you're brave, that you tell the truth even when it scares you. I squeezed her hand. And he sees that people love each other, not because of what color they are or where their families came from, but because love is what makes us human. That's what God sees. She tilted her head. So if God sees the heart, then he sees people love each other, not what color they are, right? Yes, baby, that's exactly right. 6 months later, I was teaching Lily guitar on a stage. But it wasn't Grace Fellowship's stage. It was a different church. Crossroads Community Church in Nashville. 800 members, a quarter of the size of Grace Fellowship. But it was real. The congregation was diverse. Black families, white families, Latino families, Asian families, mixed race couples, single parents, college students, people with tattoos, and people in suits. It looked like the kingdom of God is supposed to look. They'd hired me as their worship director. They knew my story. They'd seen the viral video, and they'd called me anyway. Said they wanted someone who understood what it meant to fight for truth. Lily was standing next to me on stage. I'd been teaching her guitar for 3 months. She was getting good. Okay, I said to the congregation, this is Lily's first time leading worship. She's going to teach you a song we wrote together. It's called All of Us. Lily stepped to the microphone, too short. I adjusted it. She strummed the guitar. Her fingers were small but confident. She sang, all of us with brown eyes, all of us with blue, all of us with stories, all of us are true. God sees every color. God sees every face. God sees all his children. God sees every race. The congregation joined in. Their voices rose, filled the space. I looked out at them. This was what I'd been searching for, what I'd been singing about for 8 years without knowing it. This was worship. After the service, Lily and I packed up our guitars. A woman came up to us, black, maybe 40. She had tears in her eyes. Thank you, she said. My family left our last church because of reasons like yours. We've been looking for a place where we could just belong, where we didn't have to prove we were Christian enough or American enough or whatever enough. She looked at Lily. And seeing you up there, baby girl, singing about God seeing every face, that gave me hope. Lily smiled. Thanks. My dad says church is supposed to be where everyone belongs. After the woman left, Lily looked up at me. Dad? Yeah? I think this is what church is supposed to be. I smiled. For the first time in months, I genuinely smiled. The kind of smile that reaches your eyes. Yeah, kiddo, I think you're right. We walked to the car. The Nashville skyline was visible in the distance. The sun was setting. Everything was golden. Hey, Dad, Lily said, can we write another song about families that get put back together? Absolutely. What do you want it to say? That sometimes things break, but that doesn't mean we failed. It just means we get to build something new. I put my arm around her. That's perfect, Lil. That's exactly right. Nathan and Lily redefined what church means. Not a building or an institution, but people who choose truth over comfort. If you've built your own chosen family after leaving somewhere toxic, tell me about them in the comments. I want to hear your stories. And if this story moved you, subscribe. I tell stories about faith, family, and finding your way when the map you were given is a lie. I'll see you in the next one.